to be amongst, I would say, the godly humans. And I think even that's what even I posted on my social media accounts, that today I would be interacting with the godly humans, or say humanly gods. So I think that's the best I can describe you people and your genre of people, your breed of people. So thank you so much. And today, when I was told that I have to take a session on dining etiquette, so dining etiquette is something we usually take. I've always taken sessions of dining etiquette, but this time it was different, because this time I knew that I'm not going to connect with people who are not aware of what dining is, or of what fine dining is. Or also, it's not the case here that people do not have exposure to fine dining situations, and hence today's session, to prepare for today's session, was in itself differently challenging for me. uh, Post this session, I would understand by your words if I have done justice to the invitation that you've shared with me or no. So to begin with, I would like to simply share my screen here. Just a second. Yeah. I just hope
नेहल
I
थोड़ा
have shared my
ऑडियो
screen.
ऑडियो में थोड़ा ब्रेक हो रहा है. ऑडियो इज नॉट सो क्लियर. थोड़ा ब्रेक है.
Okay.
Yeah, better say a few words.
I'll just ask.
Yeah, maybe you can take the
Okay.
mic close
Is
to
it
you.
any better now?
Swati, how is it your end?
Okay. I would do that. I would keep it closer.
Yeah.
Is it better now?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Better.
If you could just let me know. Oh, okay, great. So thanks. Okay. So today our topic is dining etiquette. And what exactly dining etiquette is? Of course, as I've said, that it's nothing new for especially the group of people that we have today as audience. They have got immense exposure at restaurants, to different countries, to different cities, to all stars of restaurants. So I was not sure what unique I would, be
Oh,
sharing today.
Snehal,
But then I
some audio issue with you.
realized that
Network issue with you.
amidst the
Snehal,
routine that you all have,
Snehal, can I interrupt? There is a lot of network. I think there's a network
network
problem
issue.
at your end because
Just
the
give me a
voice is getting
second, please.
slurred.
Yes, yes.
There's delay also, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just ask my team to check.
Yeah.
I'll just ask my team to
Yeah,
check.
yeah.
Just
You
give me
can
a
take.
second, please.
Yeah,
I'm really.
yeah, yeah. Take your time, but we need a good audio.
Meanwhile, can we do the Dijogan announcements, ma'am? Or I think she's set.
Okay. Could you please help me know if it's any better now?
Yes, ma'am, it's a little better.
It's better?
Yeah.
Okay. Do let me know again if there's any disturbance in the voice or so. I would see at my end. Thank
Yeah,
you.
one moment. Swati, just change the settings once again because some people still not muted. So we can hear some background audios. So maybe again you mute all and then we'll restart. Snehal can unmute herself. She's the co-host. Yes, Snehal. Now you unmute and
Done,
start.
ma'am. Done, yeah.
All right. So just to reconfirm, am I better? Am I audible now? Okay, good. Thank you. All right. So as I've said, that it was really a challenge for me to plan this entire session. But then I realized that amidst all the social and professional responsibilities that you all are handling, you might have overlooked onto the minutes of the dining. I won't say that yes, we don't have the etiquette or the manners, but then as we are engaged into our daily activities, we try to overlook. So today's session was just an attempt to recall what we've been overlooking, and also to an extent adding finesse to finer things into dining. So that's what the objectives for the today's session are.
Ma'am, you are muted.
Okay, so what is etiquette? Now, okay, so this reminds me, as Dr. Swati Sad has already mentioned, that there was this message, that there was this incorrect word. So most of us do this very common mistake by using etiquettes, using the word etiquettes. So etiquettes is a word that does not exist. So the only word that exists is etiquette. Now, why? Because etiquette is already a set of multiple rules, or say the guidelines that one follows in specific industries or in specific areas. So etiquette itself is a plural form of the word, and hence as plural, we do not add s to the word etiquette, and hence it's never etiquettes, it's only etiquette always. So now, what is the difference between etiquette and manners? It's very important for us to know that, because there's a very fine line. Etiquette, of course, is a set guidelines or a list of rules that one must follow, ideally. But then what manners are? Now, abiding by the etiquette or not is a choice that one individually makes. So if one makes a choice to abide by the etiquette, it's manners. Now, in situations, say for example, and this is a very common example that I quote always. So at a traffic signal, if you see that there's a red light, we happen to stop. That's an etiquette. If a person breaks the traffic rule and he moves forward, even if there's a red light, so that would be missing onto manners. So we call them as a mannerless person. Now, on the other side, if there's a green light, okay, at the traffic signal, and so ideally one has to move. That is what etiquette says, that, okay, move forward, cross the road. But in case if you see an old man crossing the line, crossing the road, and you have to stop, or you make a choice that you have to stop, is the manners. So though you are allowed, when etiquette says, okay, move ahead, your manners might say, oh no, let's stop for a minute, let the old man cross the road. So this is the difference between etiquette and manners. Now, why I have included this is something that we would get to know by the end of this session. Moving forward, importance of dining etiquette. Now, as a person, you are always being evaluated. You always form an impression, because as humans, no matter how much ever you say that one should not be judgmental, but consciously, unconsciously, subconsciously, we are all judging each other. And the primary things that we judge people on are their appearance and also their behaviors, the way they behave. Now, they behave at social functions, or say private events, or at dining table, or maybe, you know, on the road while driving, whatsoever. So you are being evaluated, and by every action you do, every act that you perform, you either impress people or you totally, you know, create your own image, which is not impressive. So hence, dining etiquette also helps you create that impression. It also adds credibility and confidence, because when you're able to sit at a dining table with utmost confidence, eating your food with utmost confidence, it adds credibility. It tells people that yes, you're all aware of the etiquette, and also that you well-traveled, well-exposed personality, and hence it adds to your credibility and confidence as well. It also shows that you're being aware of what is happening in and around in the society, and you are considered to be a refined personality. So that is why dining etiquette is important. Now, why especially dining? Now, if you see, especially in the business class, what happens is all the meetings, or if you want to know a person, all the meetings happen either at restaurants or cafes, or someone to your place, your office, or maybe your clinic for that matter. You, as Indians, we have this habit, or say we are cautious enough to offer tea or some snacks whenever someone visits us. Now that is the point where you have to live by the etiquette. So hence there's a slight importance that I thought of dining etiquette could be. Now here I would also want to share an incident that happened with me almost a week ago. One of my friends happened to call me, and he has been a practicing orthopedic surgeon for past 12 years. And I simply happened to ask him how COVID had been treating him. And he said that that's all fine, but seriously, doctor's life is not that affected due to COVID. I was very happy to hear that. But then he also added something which really was very heart touching. I'll tell you what he said. He said that, you know what, during this COVID time, Snehal, I've been seeing posts on Facebook and Instagram of my friends, my school friends, or the people whom I know, spending time with the kids, cooking with their wives, baking something for the family, having meals together in the family. And when I saw their posts, I felt a little bad about me not spending the time with my kids, family at the dining table, especially. So I realized that a breed of people who are there to serve people, to serve the needy, to serve people who lack health, their time and their quality time that their family owns, which is their maybe spouses or their children. So their time is primarily owned by them. And these people happily donate that timing just so as, you know, these people like you people could serve the community entirely, which is nothing less than a godly gesture of yours, I would say. And another important be, you know, spending quality.
Snail, we have lost you. Snail, we can't hear. We lost your audio. Swati, can you find out?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Give me a minute.
Please hold on, friends. Dr. Swati is calling up Snehal. Yeah, I think she lost the network. I think today, because of the weather, there are some places there is this network issue. So she'll be joining us soon. Please hold on for a few minutes.
She's joining back now. Just in another.
Yeah, I think उसके यहाँ थोड़ा network issue है आज. Because initially थोड़ा audio. हाँ, she's back. You're muted. Let me make you the co-host again. Wait. Ah, you're still the co-host. Snehal, you're still the co-host. You can mute, unmute. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, just 1 second. Okay.
I think some issue with your at your end, some
Yes.
network issue today.
Yeah, because it's been raining, so the Wi-Fi
Yeah, I was just thinking.
consistently ditching me.
Yeah, no problem, no problems.
Okay. I think I'm not getting the option to share my screen. Just a second.
Really?
Yeah.
You're the co-host. You should be.
1 second.
Now check.
1 second.
Now can you?
I am not able to see the icon to share the screen.
Swati, log out करके फिर से log in करे क्या?
I'll log out and log in, please, if you allow me.
Yeah, ma'am. Yeah, please log out and then log in
Could you
again.
please log me out? Could you please log
You
me out?
can
Is that
you can
possible?
leave you can leave the meeting.
Okay.
Till then, we have so many people here, so maybe we can change the settings and we can have a chat. Some important tips any one of us have to offer for our participants, so we can continue the chat.
Yeah, ma'am. I've changed the settings.
Yeah, so any one of you, कुछ भी है important tips देना है, कुछ बताना है, so it will be interesting to know. So currently the settings are changed. You can unmute yourself and talk. All cylinder and dining etiquette is one place. मुझे तो हाथ से खाना पसंद आता है. I don't know about others. Satisfaction तभी अपने हाथ से खाओ, अच्छे से चावल दाल मिक्स करो खाओ. पता नहीं ये अपने को तो अपन
Ma'am,
तो
are you
देसी,
not?
हम तो देसी है भाई.
Snell, ma'am, are you not able to leave the meeting?
Should
Kindly
I make her
unmute.
the host?
She should be able to do it, ma'am. Ma'am, you're
है ना
muted.
ज्योति है. Yeah. Yes, Nehal, you're able to do it.
Okay. Am I audible now? I'm really sorry, and I think it's because of the rains that we're facing internet
Yeah.
issues here.
No problem, no problem.
Okay. So what I was saying is that he happened to tell me that he was unable to spend time, and I thought dining etiquette could be of importance so as you could pass the soft manners on the dining table, having meals peacefully with children, spouses, and other family members. So I thought this could be the best reason I could, ever give you, because you people are who all are exposed to restaurants, exposed to different cultures, exposed to different cities. So I don't really think that, basics are concerned for you all. And there was a very famous quote by Peter Drucker. So Peter Drucker is a management guru whom a lot of people have been following. And he said that most of the business decisions occur over lunch and dinner than any other time. Yet no MBA courses are given on the subject. Ma'am, if I'm correct. So she has been talking about it, that there's no specific course about on this, and this is something new. So I would really like to acknowledge her words now, that she literally repeated the words of what the management guru Peter Drucker had said. Now, for us, dining situations are two usually. One is the formal dining situation, another is the casual dining situation. And as I heard Dr. Vaidehi Marathi ma'am, that yaar, wo to haath se dal roti khane ka maza hi kuch aur hai. And who wants to be conscious, especially when you're really into the food, when you want to enjoy the food. And I totally agree with you. But in the formal settings, we might want to stick to the etiquette path, because then that doesn't remain a choice anymore, but it becomes a mandate for us. And so the primary thing when we plan or when we decide to go out for a formal meal, considering a restaurant, okay, so what it starts right from our brains deciding, what do you think I should wear, what do you think would look good, what do you think would fit the occasion, what is that I should wear. So whenever it's a formal lunch or a formal meal, we recommend that you wear an outfit with a jacket. Outfit with a jacket, because you should wear 3 layers of clothes. Now, when I say 3 layers of clothes, in terms of casuals, it would be your t-shirt and a jacket and a pair of trousers. Or maybe when you talk about Indian, it could be a salwar kameez with a dupatta, or maybe a stole to carry. But you should overdress yourselves, because that gives you an authoritative look. And especially when you participate into the conferences, if you're a speaker, I would say add another layer to it, be simply overdressed. But even if you are attending the conference as a participant, I would recommend that you wear a 3-layer thing. So if you're wearing a kurti and a legging, which is the most comfortable wear that we're wearing, just add on to a stole, or carry a big neck piece which is clearly visible, that gives you an authoritative look. So that is something which is recommended. And for men, an outfit with a jacket, or also for women, if you are okay with the Western wear, maybe a denim or a formal wear with a shirt paired with a shirt, or a collared t-shirt and a jacket over it. It could be a semi-casual or say a business casual, but I would strictly recommend a jacket or a 3rd layer. Now you are ready with, the outfit that you thought that you wanted to wear, and now you've arrived to the restaurant. So you would either play a role of the host or a role of the guest. Now the seating becomes very important. So as guests arrive, the host needs to guide or accompany or take the guest towards his seat. It is the responsibility of the host that he guides the guest to his seat. Now, if you can see the setting here, it's a 6-seater dining table, and if you see the setting here, if it's a single host, then either of the extreme chairs is occupied by the host. Okay, and the guest, if it's a single guest, then the seat to the right of the host has to be taken by the guest. Now, in case it's a couple host and couple guest, in that case, a host and the hostess takes the opposite seats, either of the extreme seats, and one guest of honor would sit at the right of the host, and the other guest of honor would sit at the right of the hostess. Now, usually in American style of dining or British style of dining, usually it's a little gender specific. So if it's a male host, he would have the lady guest of honor sitting to his right, and the female host, that's the hostess, will have the male guest of honor sitting to her right. Now the only objective here is to indulge into a quality conversation. It shouldn't, now when we go to family dinners and stuff, we realize that ladies in a way make their group of 4 to 5 ladies sitting on one side of the table, and 4 to 5 men, their partner, sitting on another side of the table. Now that's okay considering the Indian culture, and also to an extent the culture in the UAE. If you ask them, they would strictly not allow this. But then you need to know, at international standards, this is how they create the seating. And so there's another reason now, because they want everybody to get into the conversation. Now another situation, if it's a business lunch or say a professional lunch, if it's a professional conference and there's a dining table for say 20, 25, 30 people, this would happen in the same way, because in business lunches or business meals, it's never gender biased or gender specific, so anybody can sit anywhere. But into a formal setting, especially in the British and the continental style, it's always that the male host will have the lady guest of honor to his right, and the hostess will have the male guest of honor to her right. And then the second most important person sits on the left of the host. So if you try and relate it to the normal seating that we have for the dignitaries on the dais, it so happens that the chairperson sits in the middle. The middle seat is for the chairperson, and the most important person sits on the right, and the second important person sits on the left, and then an important person post that, because the third important person will sit again on the right hand side of the most important person. So if we could relate this setting to it, it will be easy to remember. Now, seating has happened, and a very common question, especially with us ladies, is where do I place my phone, or where do I place my purse or a briefcase? Now, you need to make sure that you do not place either of these things on the table, otherwise it will be a hindrance to everybody who's coming and serving you, clearing your plates, or for that matter, even people who are sitting besides you. It becomes really irritating for the people. So we recommend, if it's a small clutch or a phone, just put the phone in the clutch or on the small or in the small bag, and just keep it, you know, behind you on your chair itself. If say it's a bigger bag, you can keep it somewhere under your chair or near your feet. Okay, do not keep it at the side of the chair, because again, it would be a hindrance for people coming in to serve you or to clear your plates. So the idea is that your stuff has to be in your territory. It cannot leave your territory, because it's your stuff. You're responsible. Do take care of it and make sure that nobody is getting disturbed because of it. Now, when you are now sitting at the dining table, what should be your posture? So your posture has to be your flat feet on the floor, right straight. This has to be your posture. How far you should sit from the table is again a very important question to, very important point to know, because most of us, okay, and even I remember doing this for myself quite a long back, that I used to sit close to the table so that my food that I'm trying to eat shouldn't spill down the table or on my lap. Okay, so how you should sit is 2 fist distance. Now this is a fist, and you should have 2 fist distance from your table. If you could just see, and I'm sitting that far from my table. So just measure it tentatively and just sit that apart from the table. Sit straight, 2 fist distance from the table. How about my elbows and my wrists? So now when I'm having conversation with you all, when we are chit-chatting with each other, we can have our elbows on the table because we are into the casual conversation with each other. But then once the food is served, once the food has started to be served, then you need to take your elbows off your table all away, so that there's no hindrance. Again, the basic idea is it shouldn't be any hindrance for anybody else. Now, there might be situations where you're eating complex foods and you need some rest to your hands or your, you know, wrists to eat that particular food. In that situation, you may place your wrists on the table just for the support. But otherwise, it's a strict no, no elbows, no wrists on the table. Again, everything is done. We've done chit chatting, everything. Now, very important part again, the napkin etiquette. What do I do with the napkin? I always enter the restaurant, I see napkins. What do I do? Should I just pick it and keep it aside? Should I just pick it and tell the waiter, hey, look, it's creating a hindrance, please take it away? Or what do I do? So as I sit, what do? I, without any thinking, so this is a small napkin that I have. Usually restaurants would have a napkin that's almost double. Some restaurants may have smaller napkins. So just open it under the table and put it on my lap. Simple. Now, when do I do that? When is the right time to open my napkin and putting it on my lap? After the food is being served, or when everyone starts eating, or when I start eating? So the right answer to this is as soon as you get seated on your chair, within 2 to 3 minutes, your napkin has to be unfolded and placed on your lap. Now, why? Because that's how it is. That's what etiquette says. Because they know then that you're ready, and even if you have your beverages or water and it spills on your lap, it doesn't really affect. So within 2 to 3 minutes, once you've greeted everyone, when this hi, hello done, the formal part is done, completed, you could just place your napkin. Now there are quite a few things to remember about the napkin. So let me just take you through the images first. If you see this first image, so when you have food stuck onto your face, what would you do? Would you just totally lift your napkin and clear it? No. What you actually do is pick it like this, use your index finger and simply clear it by dabbing it, and just clean the area that is, that has been got dirty because of your food or something. So this is the way you clean your, face or mouth wherever you see food. This would be very incorrect if you happen to clean your nose or, wipe your mouth or wipe your face with the napkin. Never do that. Now, again, a very common thing that we do is, and a lot of people do, that they place their napkins right here. Okay, so that's again not the right way unless and until you're eating seafood and especially crab. That's a strict no-no. In the last session, I had a question from a gentleman, and he said that I have a pot belly and hence there's no way that I can place my napkin on my lap. So where do I place it? I had no other option than to, place it here in my collar. So in such a situation, what you can do is understand the idea of placing a napkin on the lap. So it's placed on the lap because when you eat and because you have this 2 foot distance between you and the table, there are chances that the food spills down and it will eventually fall on your lap. If you can just see, even try right now, if the food spills, it would spill on your lap, and hence the napkin is placed here. Now, if you have a pot belly, see where are the chances that the food might fall and accordingly place the napkin. So understand and keep in mind the objective of placing the napkin and accordingly try and place the napkin. If placing it here in that situation helps you to keep it away from, being spilled, that's fine. If not, then place it in a way so that the food spill does not really, make your dress dirty or so. What if the napkin falls down? Because we do encounter a lot of situations like this where the napkin falls down. So simply, you don't really have to worry if the napkin falls down. Simply ask the wait staff to pick it up for you and you ask for the fresh ones. Do not have to really reuse the napkin, though it's ultimately clean, not needed. Now, at the end of the meal, so once you are done with your meal, then where would you place the napkin? Now, once my meal is over, and if I have to place the napkin, I don't really throw it here and there or put it in the plate just because it was dirty already. No, just pick it up and place it at the left of your dinner plate. Now, why left of your dinner plate is something that we will see in the coming slides. Okay, but remember, you need to place it in the left of your dinner plate. Now, if you are excusing yourself from the table momentarily, say for example, you've received a call or you have other guests whom you want to receive and you're in the middle of the dinner, where would you place your napkin? Again, on the table, left, right, center, where? That is again a question. So in such a situation, you can just get up, place your napkin on your chair. You need to place your napkin on your chair so that it's a signal for the wait staff that I am out for a few minutes or for some time. I am going to come back and continue with my dinner. My dinner is not yet done. I'm still having my dinner. Please don't clear my plates. I'm going to be back again. So that is what your napkin etiquette says. Now, you also need to understand what exactly are the tableware that are being used. Okay, so these are the broad categories of the tableware that are being used, and one is the serveware. If you could just see, it's the serveware here, and it's the silverware here. So servewares are the utensils used to serve the food. So you may call them bowls. Okay. So usually if we need anything, we ask people, could you please pass the sabzi? Could you please pass the starters? Could you please pass the dal. So that is not the right way. We should be using the words like, could you please pass the sabzi bowl, or could you please pass the gravy boats. These are called as the gravy boats, or the sauce boats. Could you please pass the starters platter? Someone can't really pass starters. They have to pass the entire serveware. So those are the right terms to be used. Then comes silverware. So silverware is nothing but the cutlery wherein we have spoons and knives and forks and everything. And then we have the dinnerware. So dinnerware is very important for us to understand. So you see the small one is the salad plate or the appetizer plate, whatever you call it. This is the dinner plate, we all know it. This is the spaghetti bowl or the pasta bowl. This is the noodles bowl, and these are the chopsticks. And this plate, which is you may not find it in every restaurant, but the star restaurants would always have a charger plate. Now charger plate is a permanent plate that is there on your dining table at restaurants. Whatever food has to come, it'll be served on that plate and it'll be cleared, and then the next course of the meal would be served. That is the plate that will always remains that'll always be constant on your dinner table. So that is the charger plate. So when we go through the meal courses in the coming slides, you would know that the variety and the different courses of meals. So the meal would come, be cleared, but then this charger plate remains constant. Another very important part is to understand the glassware. Okay, so in glassware, the common glasses that we've been using are primarily the water glasses. So the glass with the flat bottom will be called as tumblers, and the one with the stem would be called as goblets. So these are called as water goblets. Water tumbler, water goblets. Then we all know that these are the wine glasses. It's a red wine glass and it's a white wine glass. Okay. So, and we would be coming to the wine glasses in a bit to understand wine in details. These are the glasses used for champagne. So this one is called as the champagne flute. This is called as the champagne saucer. Now, most of the times, this glass can also be used for champagne, and this is called as the champagne tulip, wine tulip or champagne tulip. This is a beer mug. You may also use a tumbler at times. You never use goblets for the beer. Then you have these shots glasses. These are the small, this much glasses. They're used for vodka shots or tequila shots. And then the other one was the whiskey glass. Okay, so this is all about the glassware. So knowing which glass to be used when is really helpful, because most of the times we happen to, buy wine glasses to serve water and stuff just because it looks good, because the stem looks really appealing. So one really needs to know what are the types of glasswares and why are they, used. Now, once you are at the dining table, you've placed the napkin, you've now understood what, kind of cutlery and what are the servewares and the dinnerwares. The first thing that happens, if at all it happens, is beverages. Okay, so if you see, even if you all go to restaurants, so you might just order a mocktail or drinks if you, prefer having drinks. So the first thing that happens on the table is the beverage. Now in beverages, if there are any celebrations, toasting happens, and I'm sure with the success that you all achieve, there always be celebrations, or you would be attending someone else's celebrations. So toasting is a very common thing that happens. Now we need to know what exactly happens into toasting. So who raises the toast? So toasting is nothing but, again, I ask for champagne khulega. The way hai champagne khulega, it will be served into the flutes, the champagne flutes, and everyone will have the champagne. So who raises the toast? Champagne jo kholta hai or jo announce karta hai celebration ke baare mein. So that entire process is called the toasting. And then who raises the toast? So obviously the host of the party would raise the toast. Okay, and the toasts or the toasting usually happens in the beginning of the meal. Okay, that's the first thing that would happen. Now, what after raising the toast? So once the toast is being raised, the one who raises the toast will tell why is the celebration, what is it all about. Now, it could be a 25th anniversary, it could be a 50th birthday, it could be 11 years of your marriage, it could be a professional success, it could be your child's success, it could be anything. Now, celebration could be anything. So once the toast is being raised, you just say, okay, I would really like to take a minute to let you all know, whatever the achievement or whatever the reason for celebration is. And that's how it happens. Now, can guests who have, come into the party raise the toasts? Yes, they can raise the toasts. Now, it so happens most of the times that, we're so modest about our achievements that we have invited, we've thrown a party and we're celebrating it, but we've not raised the toasts because we want to keep it, really low profile kind of a thing. But then our very good friends, our fast friends, our best friends, or, our relatives, they might want to really raise a toast for us because they feel that our achievement is their achievement. And so can you raise the toast once your friends or your family members have achieved something. So in such a situation, if the host is not raising the toast and you as a guest are raising the toast, you can raise it, but not at the beginning of the meal, but at the dessert course. So whenever there's a dessert course that's happening, that is when you raise the toast. So when the entire meal is done and it's a dessert time, that is when you raise the toast. Now, what if I don't prefer alcohol? You know what, I have quit alcohol a long time back. So now what do I do if people are raising toast? Doesn't matter, that's fine. You can still be a part of the toasting. What if my glass is empty? So if you're not having alcohol, if you have that mocktail or, a glass of water in your hand, you might just raise it with it, okay? So this is how you raise the toast, like, okay, like this. Okay, and then if my glass is empty, doesn't matter. If you don't have water, even if you don't have a drop of water into it, that's okay. You can still raise a toast by the empty glass. That's absolutely okay. What after the toast is being raised for me? So if someone else raises the toast for me, what do? I very gently, with very kindly and very happily acknowledge that the toast is being raised for me, and I very graciously nod my head. Okay, if I can say thank you, well and good. But if it's a crowded place wherein it's really difficult and it seems close to impossible that my voice is going to reach, someone who has raised the toast for me, that's okay. I can still very graciously nod my head and just smile, a very kind and warm smile, and just simply say thank you with my body language. So that's about the toasting. Now comes a very important part, wine and wine. So as wine these days, even if people don't call themselves or count themselves as alcoholic, wine is treated as one of the elite beverages that everyone consumes today. Or there might be a formal party where you might have to have wine. Then how do you treat wine? How do you work with wine? How do you, play around with wine? It's really fun, and I'm going to share with you how. So wine tasting steps. To taste a wine or to consume wine, I would say there are certain steps that one has to follow. Now, what are they? So here I have kept this red wine glass. Okay. Now, if you see, I have, I've held it here by the stem. Okay. Number one, I can't hold the wine glass like this. Never do that. The reason is because wine is served at a particular temperature. And if you hold your wine glass with your hands, there is a possibility that the heat from your body gets transferred to the wine it loses its flavor, number one, it loses its aroma, number two, and of course it's heated, right? Its temperature raises, so it's no more fun to have the wine. Hence, the wine glass is always held like this at the stem, by the stem. Now, the first step is to you just look at the wine, and it's so much fun looking at the wine. Trust me, you just tilt a bit and you try looking at the wine, and you would understand how intense it is. If you're able to see from one side of the glass to the other, it means it's less intense. That means it's fresh, it's less intense, it's more acidic. And if you can't see anything through the glass, like here I can see a bit of light, so it still tells me that yes, it's intense, but it's also mild, because I can see the effect of the light. I can see the dark burgundy color getting down to yellow, and in between I can see all shades. So you hold the glass, slightly tilt the glass, you see through the glass. Okay, so that's what sight means. Then you swirl the glass like this. The reason is because you want to activate the flavors in the wine. So that's the reason you swirl it. And then, just you have to keep all your senses active while even eating the food or having drinks, and you smell it. Okay, and then you sip. Okay, and when you sip the wine, it never should be a mouthful. Okay, it should be a small sip. And then once you sip the wine, just savor it, just let it be, just activate all your taste buds and let it be in your mouth, roll it over your tongue, over your lips, and just enjoy the taste that it has. So those are the wine tasting steps. I would repeat for you. It's the sight that you see the wine, you analyze what color it is, and so you swirl it, you smell it, you have a sip, a small sip, and then you relish it, you savor it. Now, if you see, if you see both my wine glasses, the quantity poured is almost 1/3 of the glass. Okay, so it's 1/3 of the glass because wine needs space to breathe so that its aroma, its flavors are activated, and hence it's always served 1/3. So never pour the complete glass. Okay, always keep it maximum 1/3. Then at what temperatures it has to be served? It has to be served. Now, if you see red wine, so red wine is very intense, and hence the glass of the red wine is broad. And with white wine, because it's not that active, it's a little sleek because it needs less place to breathe in. So temperatures for the red wine, it's usually served at room temperatures. You can serve it at around 15 degrees Celsius. With white wine, it has to be a little colder than red wines. So it's usually served between 8 to 10 degrees. And if you see champagnes and sparkling wine, so champagne itself is an elite sparkling wine. So it is usually served chilled. Now, when you have wine, there are specific foods that go well with specific wines. Like with red wines, you can have red meat if you eat non-veg red meat, or if you are a vegetarian, then maybe something really spicy with red gravies or something that's very fatty. Okay, so there's some full of fats. Okay, that is the reason. And with the white wine, it's more of if you are non-vegetarian again, then maybe fish goes well, white meat goes well, and non-spicy starters like tandoori stuff, which is not a lot of gravy, goes well with the white wine. And with champagne, everything goes well. So that's about wine. Again, there are a lot of things which I may exclude right now due to time constraint, but I'll try and cover maximum things. So once you're done with the beverages, now it's time to understand meal courses. Okay, so if you ask me, starting from 3-course meal, they're like 3, 4, 5-course meal, 6-course, 7-course, 8-course, 9-course, 10-course. There's no 11-course meal. Okay, so there's directly 12-course meal, and there's also 16-course meal. There's some countries that might serve 14 course meal. There's some countries, they might also serve 17 course meal, like French people serve 17 course meal. But to understand, I'll just quickly take you all through to understand what these 12 course meal is. So the first thing that comes is the hors d'oeuvre. Okay, it's pronounced as hors d'oeuvre. Hors d'oeuvre, so it means they are the quick bites that you have with the beverages. Okay, drinks ke saath, ya, you know, if you have those peanuts also, so they are called as hors d'oeuvres. Then comes amuse bouche. Amuse bouche are small, you know, little tangy or tangy starters, okay, single bite starters again, that you can have post you're done with the beverages, so that it also, you know, cleans your mouth and it gives your palate a new taste. Then you can get on to soups. So if you say in India, one might either go for a beverage that's a chilled beverage, or they might just go to soups. So, but if you go abroad or maybe in international cuisines, people prefer drinks, and post that they would clear the palate with amuse bouche, and then they might also have soup. Post soup, then you have appetizers or entree, you call it. They are the starters that we have. Then goes salad. So people who consume fish would go post salad. And then comes the first main course. So the first main course is always, you know, the red meat. Okay. Then goes the palate cleanser. Palate cleanser is nothing but a drink that is a little tangy. So usually it's the lemon salt drink that helps, you know, cleanse your palate. Just like when you try different perfumes or different fragrances, there are coffee beans to cleanse your nasal or say olfactory senses. So similarly, the gustatory senses, that is your palate tastes, are cleansed with lemon and salt water. Then comes the second main course, so that would be white meat usually. And then comes the cheese course, so preparations from cheese, because abroad people are really very particular about having protein intake. So they have this entire course that is cheese course, when you have blue cheese and, you know, different variety of cheese. Then you have dessert. So dessert we all know, and dessert is still very, very mandate thing in India, of course, because without desserts, हम लोगों की तो कोई भी meal पूरी नहीं होती है. There are a lot of families whom I know especially, जिनके breakfast में भी there has to be some or the other dessert. So that's how the culture here is. And the last thing is minyardis. So minyardis is nothing but the final tea or coffee जो हम लोग लेते हैं, उसके साथ you may have a biscuit or say a small portion of pastry or a cake or something, just something sweet, some small dessert to have it, you know, to have with tea or coffee. So this is a 12 course meal. Now again, 17 course meal, then they add dry fruits as a separate meal. They would add fruits as a separate meal. So that's how they keep extending. But in India, if you see, we hardly follow, you know, 4 course meal. So you'll have this soup, appetizer, then you have salad, then you have the main course, and then you have the dessert. So 5 course meal, right? Salad is also considered as the main course here, because you fill your dish along with the entire main course. You also add salad to your dish when you serve your dish. So hence I said 4 course. But if you look at the 12 course meal, there are ideally 5 courses of meal. So we start with the soup, then starters, and then we have salad, our main course, and then dessert, right? I hope I have, so the objective here was to get you an idea of the international cuisines and how the courses in the meal work. Then it's also important to understand how the table layout is. So if you see here, you'll have this charger plate, and then they have this salad plate, okay? And you'll have all your knife and spoons on the right hand side, and the forks on the left hand side, and here you have a napkin that we've used already. And then you have the dessert spoon and dessert fork here. Now you may ask the directions. Why, you know, is the tail of the spoon towards the right and tail of the fork towards the left? It's because we hold spoons in the right hand and fork in the left hand. So that's how the placing is. And if you see, here's the water glass, and if you have this wine glass, so you have the red wine glass and then you have the white wine glass. And so this is the formal layout, and then also the cup and saucer. So this is the entire table layout which is already there. And as you keep consuming your courses of meal, one by one, step by step, everything gets cleared out, because we have wine in the beginning, so we can just quickly have wine and then it would go off, and then comes the salad plate and we use this salad fork. So if you see, hence it is the salad fork is placed at the extreme, so that we use it, we eat, and it can be cleared. And then comes dinner fork. So usually the utensils on your table are placed in a way that you start from the outer side, you pick your spoon, you pick your fork, and then it gets cleared away. So you walk, or you use the utensils, you move from outwards to inwards. Okay, so that's how is the formal table setting. And then in the casual setting, we all know that there's a dinner plate, salad fork, dinner fork, knife and spoon, and water and wine. That's how it is. Now, there's always a question that why is this bread or chapati plate on the left? So in my last session also, there was this question that we eat our food and we eat chapati, and then we dip it into the dal or say any gravy and we eat. So why is it placed on the left? It's so inconvenient for us. So the bread or the chapati plate is on the left because the food is always served from the left and it is always cleared from the right. Okay, and now you can correlate the napkin etiquette also. The food is always served from the left and cleared from the right. So hence, while serving roti and everything, it should be convenient for people to serve it. Hence, there's this the chapati plate on your left, and so that while clearing also it becomes easy, and it's no hindrance. There's no hindrance. So otherwise, if someone is serving from the left and if your chapati plate is kept on the right, it'll be so inconvenient. He'll have to put his arms over and across your dinner plate, which even you may not like, even hurt your face. So that is the reason that the bread plate or the chapati plate is on the left hand side. Regarding the use of utensils, we know that we start from the outside and we work inwards. Just discussed that. Now, table food is passed again. So, if you have a bowl of gravy and you've served that gravy in your plate, which side will you pass the food? So you will always pass the food to your right. Again, the same logic, because usually the food is served from the left. So the person sitting to your right, you are at his left, and hence you serve from the left to him. So that is the ideal sequence. But again, if there's someone very important person sitting, on your left, which will never happen, because as we've discussed, the very important people sit on the right, and then the next important person on the left. So even if you are the host and you have someone on the right, so of course he is the most important person, so you'll have to pass the food to him. But again, using the brains here, if someone has really asked for something, you don't wait and tell that person that, okay, I have passed the food to my right and let it, follow the entire circle and then let it come to you. No, it doesn't happen that way. So if someone has really asked you, you may just quickly serve it to them. Now, handling variety of food. Now, this is a very, very important part. So I'll just stop sharing my screen right now. And I would want to show things to you live right here. Okay. So let me just quickly tilt this. I hope you can see. Okay. I hope you can see the layout that I have right now, because the focus now would be, how do we handle foods? So the very important thing is, how do we start? So how do we hold our cutlery? So if it is about the spoon, you just simply hold it like a pencil, if you can see. Okay. So simply the way you would hold a pencil, you would hold it, and you will hold the cutlery to the edge. You will hold the cutlery to the edge and not here. No, you'll hold, especially the spoons have to be held by the edge, just simply like a pencil. Then comes knife, if you see. Then comes the knife, and then you also have this fork, okay? Very common cutlery items that we use. Now, if you see this, the mid of this knife here, this is called the waist of the knife, and here if you see, this is called the waist of the fork. Now, while holding this is how you hold. You press or you put the entire pressure on the waist of the cutlery so that there's a grip, okay? So this is how you hold it. Now, what are the foods that we would have, okay? So I have some foods here arranged, and so the first thing that comes is the soup, okay? Now, this is the soup that I have. Now, usually what you do is you take the soup in the spoon and you consume it. But this is not the right way. The soup has to be had like this. So while you take the spoon, the soup in the spoon, it has to face outwards, just like as you see, okay? So if you see, I will move the spoon outwards like this, okay? And then I'll tap it at the corner of the bowl, and then I consume it. Now, when I consume it, I would consume it by the side of the spoon. I won't consume it like this. No, I won't consume it like this. It has to be like this by the side of the spoon. If you can see, like this. Okay, I'm bending because I have to show this to you in the video. Otherwise, if you see, never bend for the food, let the food come to you, okay? I've shown you, and then you tap it, and this is how you have it from the sides. So this is how you have the soup, okay? That's about the soup. And say if there's a last bite, okay, if there's a last bite, or say the last sip of the soup remaining, you can again tilt the bowl outward, okay? Tilt your bowl outward, put the spoon in the outward direction, take the soup, tap it, and then you can have it from the sides of the spoon. So that's about the soup. Then we have salad and, you know, fruits. So salad is very easy. So you might just use the salad fork that was here. If you see, my salad fork was here, extreme. So, and I can just, you know, prick it and I can have it. It's that simple. Now, most of the times we also have these fruits that we have to deal with, okay? Now, in this situation, you need a knife because if you see, there's a kiwi slices, there are there are these kiwi slices, and you can't just pick it and, you know, have it when at formal dining. Of course, ghar mein to hum kha hi sakte hain. So again, you have to use your knife and fork for the same. So prick the fork like this, whatever portion you are wanting to have, and then press this knife, very gently cut it, and then if you see, this is how you pick it, okay? And then you can eat it. Similarly, even the, you know, the pieces from the apple. So again, just prick into the apple, and then you can, you know, simply cut this apple, and then you can eat it. You don't have to really, you know, lift the entire slice and or the piece and then have it. No, you don't have to. You may use the fork and knife, and it's very easy. The only catch here, the only trick is to hold these cutlery from the waist of there. So this was it. Then we have let me just take those noodles, okay? So I'm placing this. Now, whenever the cutleries are not in use, you have to place it at the edge of your plates, okay? So that was the salad fork, and now because I've consumed it and my salad course is done, so it goes away. Okay, someone would certainly come and clear it. Now is the time to have my noodles or spaghetti. That's one of the most complex foods that people think is. So here what you have to do is just simply place this fork and just roll it. Yeah. Now, if you're rolling it, if you find it, still, if you see that the noodles are, hanging down the fork, you may use the spoon for support, and then just quickly roll it, and then you can have it. Now, if you see, it's very simple. Oh, it's no more rocket science. The only thing that we miss doing is taking support of the spoon. So if you take the support of the spoon, it becomes very easy. So similarly, you can eat Maggi. So this is Maggi noodles, but you can eat any other noodles and also the spaghetti pasta. So that's how it is. Again, keeping it here. I'm sorry, I have to because I'm changing, the foods. I can't really follow the dining etiquette here right now because I have no one to help me out here, and it would take time. Now, again, another complex food is the pasta. If you see, we have a pasta here, and most of the times, we prick it, and then, we try to eat, and then something of this sort happens, it will either fall, or the pasta would break and it gets off the fork. So the very simple trick to eat a pasta is when you see the strings of your fork. Okay, so just try and place the pasta, the penne pasta especially, like this, into those strings. If you see, I have just put those strings into the pasta and it gets stuck there, okay, because it has the support of the fork, and you just put it like this and you eat it. It's as simple. So no more spilling of the food, no more falling, no more inconvenience of the food, nothing. Okay, so this was pasta, and now there's another thing which is very important, the dessert. That's the dessert. Okay, so I am done with this and I'm keeping it aside. Okay, now for dessert, if you see, I have these smaller forks and spoons here, right? So fork, because I will hold it on the left side, so hence the tail was in the left, and then this. Okay, so it is like this. Now I may also need knife most of the times, cake, or if I have to eat anything that's bigger and that has to be cut and consumed, then such situations I would need knife. So I have taken this knife, and what do I do is, again, I prick my fork in the dessert. Okay, and then I very gently cut this dessert with the knife and I pick it. So if I feel that this is big enough for me to eat, then I again play around with it. I break it into half and I eat it. So this is how I would eat a pav, for that matter, the bread, or the pastry, any dessert, or even the pizza, because pizzas are also served in this way. So this is how I eat those things. Now, there's another very important thing, and which we find to be very, very complex, I would say, and that's eating food with the chopsticks. Okay, so let me share my screen with you, and I want to show something. Okay, so now again, so when we go at the star restaurants, you would see the breads kept there. Okay, the small breads in different shapes and sizes kept there, which have to be eaten with usually the curries. Okay, not everyone prefers eating roti, for that matter. So in such a situation, whenever there's a bread, okay, so what you do is you simply break the bread with the hand. If you see here, right, break a small portion, okay, and let the other part of the bread be there. hold one portion in your left hand, use your knife, and you'll also have either butter served there already, or a cube of butter, or maybe small portions of butter served. Take it in your plate, the butter plate or the roti plate, the bread plate. Okay, take the small piece from the bread, apply that butter, eat one. Okay, then break it, then eat one. So always see, when you have to cut foods into pieces or different smaller portions, never cut all at once. Okay, cut one portion at a time, eat it, then cut another portion, eat it. So go one by one, just for your convenience. Don't cut, or cut the entire piece into small pieces and then have one by one. Never do that. And also, you can't talk like this, the way I'm doing right now, having a knife in the hand. No, 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 just place in the edge of the plate. Okay, so similarly, we can just see here, it's shown how you eat the bread. Then I think we've seen all of it. Now the very important part is eating Indian food, because here we usually order Indian foods, right? So just roll your rotis and grab a bite of your roti, and then have your salad or sabzi, whatever you want to have it. In that ways also, you can just, because roti is already in your left hand, so hold the roti in your left hand, roll it, have a bite, use spoon to eat your curry or dal, whatever you have it. That's how you can eat without making your hand dirty. So that's a technique of eating Indian food. A very complex thing, we've spoken about pasta already, I've shown you. Now, chopsticks. This is a very complex thing that people think is, but if I show you the demo right now, you'll see, oh, it's simply like playing with a small thing. Yeah. So types of chopsticks, I would want you all to understand the three types. One is the wooden, if you could just see. From Japan and China, there are wooden chopsticks, and in Korea, there are metal chopsticks. So again, there's a story behind why Koreans have metal chopsticks. The only reason is that in previous times, when there was this empire, where this royal empires, so the kings were always scared of being poisoned through foods. So they made silver chopsticks, so that if there is always poison in the food, the chopsticks would show the reaction and they would get to know that the food is being poisoned. And now, because this royal people used silver chopsticks, then the entire Janta started using, at least if not silver, then metal chopsticks. So that's about it. Now, how do you use chopsticks? And I would take hardly, I think, 5 minutes more, if that's okay. So
Yeah. Yes,
okay.
yes, you can.
All right, thank you so much. So here are the chopsticks. Okay, if you have 2 pens right now with you, you may try doing it right away. So one chopstick has to be held like this. Okay, so it has to rest on your ring finger. Let me stop this and I can show this to you. Okay, so if you see, I have rested it on my ring finger and I have put pressure through my thumb. So whenever I'm applying any pressure by my thumb, entire pressure goes onto my ring finger. So this is the way you hold one chopstick. Then another chopstick, if you see, you will hold it like this, like a pencil, if you see. So I'm holding it like a pencil. If you see, I can play with it like this, right? So now, holding both the chopsticks like this. So the first one I had told you already how to hold it, and this is the second, okay? And you play with it like this. It's so simple. Now I can show you how you can eat with chopsticks. So I have the same dessert piece right here. So what I do is I just pick it up, if you can see, yeah, and I eat it simply. So I keep it. So I pick another one. It's so simple. And you shouldn't feel surprised if I tell you that there are a lot of people who also eat soup with chopsticks and rice with chopsticks. Now, you don't have to try doing that, because the kind of rice that we eat here is, every single grain is separate. But in China or in other countries, the rice is really soggy and they eat lumps of the cooked rice. So for them, it's easy to eat rice with chopsticks, but we don't really have to. Or even if you go to a thorough Chinese restaurant, they would serve you rice lumps, not every single grain as the separate one. So that's about the chopsticks, and it's very, very easy. Just, I don't know why people feel that it's very complicated. Now, the last and very important part. Now, as you know that you're done with everything, you're done with dessert, you're done with miniadis, everything. Now is the time to place your cutlery. And the way you place your cutlery has a message, okay? So, if you see here, resting positions, okay? So here, when you are in the middle of the meal and you're just waiting, okay? So the
Is that
continent,
all?
yes. Okay. So now there are two styles, as I've said, American style and the continental style. So continental style is also the British style and something that even we apply. American style remains exclusive to the Americans for some reasons, and I'll tell you why. So in continental style, if you see here, this is how you place your knife and the inverted knife. It says that, okay, I have paused and I want to pause for some time. I'm going to have food sometime after a break or something, right? And in American style, of course, the knife is placed on the edge, either of the edges, and the fork is not placed inverted. Why? Okay, so let me also show you. I'll show this to you. Just wait a second. How Americans eat is a little different. Okay. 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 So how Americans would eat, I'll tell you. So what they would do is they would cut the bread. Okay. Like this. They would cut it again, and now they would place their knife. Just see exactly how I'm placing the knife, and they would take a fork in this hand, they would prick the fork, and then they would eat. So now, because they're eating with the right hand, what after they are done eating, what they do is they'll simply place the fork like this, and hence that is the resting position. But when into continental culture or British culture, after we cut the piece, we would prick with the left hand and we would still eat with the left hand. We don't change hands. And hence there's a difference in the American style and the continental or British style. So if you're with Americans, you have to be really conscious that you can't eat with your left hand. But if you're with people from any other country or cultures, that's okay if you follow your own. So that's the resting positions. And once you've finished the meals, so the knife and the fork or the spoon, whatever, has to be kept parallel. Again, with the British, it stays inverted, and with Americans, it's always open. Okay. And then the last thing and the last slide of it, if you have not liked the food, this is how you place it. So you fix that knife into the prongs of the fork and then you keep it. It means that you have not liked the food. If you keep the fork straight, and if you keep the knife a little tilted, it means that you're not yet finished. You're still hungry, you're not yet finished. Now, in between the courses, if you want to give a message that I'm done with one course, now I want to move to another course, then this is how you keep. So it's a cross, okay, with the straight fork and horizontal placing of the knife. And if the food was excellent, then of course you keep both the things, the knife and the fork, parallelly, okay, in the middle of the plate in whatever direction you want to. So that's about, so that's how your cutlery has a message. Now, when not in use, I've told you place your knife at the edge of the plate. And a very, very, embarrassing situation that we fall into is that there comes a tough piece of gristle in our mouth at times. ना कुछ कंकड़ आ गया या हमने चेरी खाई है उसकी गुठली रह गई है तो अब हम क्या करेंगे? So the very simple, you don't have to really, feel awkward about it or something. That does happen a lot of time. So say if I have eaten something with a fork, okay, and then I realize that, oh my God, there's a gristle. So what do? I simply take, this fork inside my mouth, okay, and I try placing that gristle on the fork or on the spoon through my tongue, okay, and while I am doing it, I may cover my mouth with a napkin or a tissue paper like this, okay, and once it is out, I take it off and I keep it at the edge of my plate. Simple. You don't have to really worry about it. It's no awkward situation. Now, we have done so much, and I think I've covered all what I could in the span of 1.5 hours. I'm sorry I exceeded. But there's one very important thing that I would want to say, and that's there's a movie, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, and in that movie, Mr. Smith says that your etiquette and rules mean nothing to me if they don't have kindness in them, if they have no kindness in them. And with these words, I would love to give a full stop to whatever I had to share with you. And I think that's all from my end. And I really hope this has been helpful to you. So thank you. Thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Snehal. It was really very, very interesting, and we learned so many new things. And I really didn't know each country, I thought khana means Western khana means wohi fork or wohi spoon pakdo and wohi knife lo aur kaise, because I didn't know left hand, right hand, and with Americans and French and with other countries, these
the other day I was invited at a friend's place for this Ganesh Visarjan ka khana. So we're family friends, and so I was invited. And there I realized that, there's also a need to understand the Indian dining etiquette also, because while
Yes.
they were serving thali na, they were so confused. Are koshambir kute thevo and bhaji kute thevo.
I can take a talk on that.
Okay.
Uzviari Davi.
So
My mother would give us a big, a spank on our hands if we would serve koshambir on right and bhaji on left.
Yeah, and
it has got ingrained in our mind right from our childhood, which goes on right and what food goes on left.
Yes.
So there is a science behind it as well. So maybe sometime later we can take, Indian food and demystify it for all of us.
Yes, of course, because it's different with Maharashtrians and it's different with Hindi siders. So what Maharashtrians would do, Hindi siders would do exactly opposite of it.
Oh,
yeah, they do.
Is that so?
Yes, it's strange. And I thought of, thinking on those lines as well when I'm doing my dining etiquette stuff with people. So whenever we have, some longer time or so, I think that's really needed to be included.
Yes. Wonderful. Can I take a few questions?
Yes, please.
Snehal, हाथ पे खाना क्या really bad manners if we are eating pizza and all with the hands? So is it really considered very ill-mannered in a restaurant or if we are outside India?
See,
again, I don't know if you were there at the beginning of the session or no.
No, I was there from the beginning.
Okay, so we had covered etiquette versus manners, right?
Manners,
so
yes.
Etiquette is, of course, a set guideline. Etiquette is, of course, a set guide. And manners is, our choice of how we do things. Now, depending on where we are, what is the timing, who we are surrounded with, keeping all that in mind are manners. So say, for example, if I am sitting in a 5-star restaurant, but because I was traveling, I also have my driver and my maid, also joining me for the dinner, because I won't keep them alone. So they might join sometimes. So now when they are with me and they are feeling offended about how I am eating because they are not able to eat that ways, then my manners said that, okay, chuck it all, I'm also going to be a part of them and I'm going to meet with hands. So eventually it's the decision that you make that do not make other people feel uncomfortable. So if you are eating with hands and if people you're surrounded with are feeling uncomfortable, then of course it's ill-mannered. But if nothing else is getting affected and it's just you and your convenience and your comfort, it's all fine. So when I say that, you know, all rules and regulations only and only matter when they have kindness in them. They don't matter if you don't have kindness in them. So you should be kind towards yourself first. So be kind to yourself and just make a wise decision what you want to go ahead with. Absolutely fine.
Yes. And I think you took this up, but maybe you can answer that again because there is a question: how to eat chapati and bhaji?
Yes. So chapati and bhajis have said the chapati is being served on the left of your dinner plate. So just pick chapati, roll it, have a bite of it, and then have, you know, a spoonful of dal or sabzi with it. That's how you can eat.
And what about fish and chicken with bones?
Okay, so now eating fish and chicken with bones, again, I recommend to eat it with the fork and knife. Now, it needs a lot of practice. Because if you are eating chicken and fish for the first time with a knife and fork, you may, you know, just end up spilling your food not on your table but on others' tables. So unless and until you're comfortable with it, don't try it at restaurants. But the only question remains, what have you done to, you know, upscale yourself or upskill yourselves with the dining skills? So if you don't know, don't try that. But I would only say that try and practice and learn.
Yeah, so practice is the key. You need to practice
Of
at
course.
home.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, right. And how to eat soup sticks? The soup sticks with bun and soup. The
Okay,
sticks and the bun with the soup.
Okay, so again, you know, you can
नहीं
have
table
it from
etiquettes.
your left hand
Yeah,
because you use. Okay, it's your
Yeah,
someone.
I muted her. Yeah.
No, that's okay. So as I've showed you, how do you
Snehal, just
break
give me a
the?
minute. I'll change the settings because I think the settings were changed and they are able to unmute themselves. Just a moment.
Yeah, sure.
You will be muted, but you unmute yourself again, okay? Yeah. Go ahead. Unmute yourself. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So as I've showed you, how do you break the bun? And you know, so what you can do is you can just hold the bun or the stick in your left hand, just have it, and then, you know, have your soup in the way that we have done. So the only common mistake in soups that we do is, you know, we try and fill our spoon inward. So usko inward nahi karna hai, ulta karna hai. That's it. That's
And by the side.
Yes, by the side.
Yeah.
Outside.
And what about finger bowls and the tissues?
Yeah, so finger bowls and the tissues, of course, they're there with a purpose, and do that, and then use the tissues, wipe your hands, and keep those tissues under your dish.
Okay.
Even while having meals, you know, you may use a lot of tissues to clean your nose, or maybe, you know, if something gets dirty and everything. So you just can't throw it on the table, okay? So when you have your dish here, on your right hand side, okay, on the right of the dinner plate, keep it, because everything is cleared from the right hand side. So when someone comes to clear, and if he notices the tissues, he would clear it from the right hand side. So keep it on the right hand side under your dish.
And if it's a cloth napkin, once you wipe your hands after the finger bowl, where does it go?
Left hand side. At the end of the meal, yeah, end of the meal, left hand side, because now you're done, so everything is going to be cleared. So they will always obviously clear, you know, जो झूठा आपके सामने वो पहले clear होगा ना, तो उसको clear करेंगे, and then they'll reach the napkin and they'll clear it all also.
And is there any way, a particular way of cleaning your hands with in the finger bowl?
So you dip your hands, and
Okay.
see, again, we recommend that it doesn't get more dirty, and hence we, you know, use cutlery and we practice with the cutlery. But say for that matter, if it gets dirty and if you see ये पूरा हाथ गंदा हो गया, I would recommend move, go to the wash basin or to the restroom, clean your hands and then come back. But if it's a little one, then obviously you can dip your hands and clean it and wipe it off.
Yeah. Another question is interesting from Dr. Vikranti More. She's from Nasik.
Okay.
What are the special tips for left-handed people?
Okay. So for left-handed people, special tips, I don't see any special tips, but okay. So as far as I understand, for right-handed people, it's difficult to, you know, eat from the left hand, which shouldn't be a challenge with left-handed people. But still, if they feel, they may interchangeably use things, and they can tell them that. So accordingly, the settings might be changed depending on the restaurant they go.
Yeah. So another question on Indian food: how to eat dal bati. So maybe this can be generalized for every Indian food, dal bati or apna Indian khana. You know. So what are the tips for that? How to eat?
See, again, dining etiquette is, applied when you are at formal settings, and formal settings would never serve food like dal bati and stuff. So
Yeah.
if you are going to eat a region specific food at that particular restaurant, then you should, in fact, I would say, enjoy the food the way it should be.
Should be.
Yeah, so just eat it that way. And I've seen a lot of people, okay, eating dal bati. So they would ask the wait staff. So my husband does that, okay. So he'll ask the wait staff to, break that bati into small pieces, and then, he would add some dal to it and he'll eat with spoon. But I prefer eating with, hands, or maybe that way. So that's totally your choice, because that there the objective is to relish that food and not, to create an impression
so much.
also. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a comment from one of the doctors. So much scientific way of eating, east or west, Indian way of eating is the best.
Anytime, because we've been conditioned to think that ways, right?
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
Dr. Meena Agrawal has commented, her son always tells her, don't make noise during eating.
Yes, because that's a kind of disturbance to other people, especially at restaurants or even at the dining table. Someone is in his or her thoughts, or maybe getting into a very quality conversation, and making noise might just disturb them. So yes, one should really take care of not making the noise, and that's where again practice comes into picture.
Yeah, so many questions on Indian food, again samosas and vada pav. So I think you've already answered that. So it's more about
Where we are.
Can we use the same knife which is used for main course and the desserts, or you need to change?
See, usually at many restaurants, there would be separate dessert knives that they would be placed. So if there are not, you may just leave the knife that you've used already. The people might just come and clear it, and you may request for another knife. Because obviously the knife that you've used has some sort of taste, and you don't want that to,
Right.
Your dessert get affected
Right.
because of it.
Asking for a second serving, how to serve the gravy and the curry form group if there is no help. No, I'm not getting this question. Jyoti, can you just pose this again? Asking for second serving and how to serve the gravy and curry form food if there is no help, how to serve while eating. Jyoti, please pose this question again so that we know. Okay. Please show again how to use a chopstick.
Okay, sure. I would do that. So I'll. Okay. So primarily, if you have two pens with you, you may just practice it right now. You hold this chopstick like this, okay? The first chopstick, like this. So wherein the pressure is applied by the thumb, and the chopstick rests on your ring finger. On your ring
That's
finger.
right.
Yes. So if you press your thumb, try pressing your thumb, your ring finger would feel a little pressure.
Yeah.
So once it feels the pressure, it means it's correct. Okay. Yeah. So that's one stick. Okay. Now another stick you got to hold like a pencil. So see, if you see holding like a pencil, and just try practicing it. So this stick is moving without your thumb getting moved. Okay. If you see, it's placed between two fingers, the index finger and the middle finger, and you're trying to move the chopsticks, but your thumb remains still. If you see. No, just try with one pen first. Just leave the other one and just try this step first. So your thumb doesn't move, it's only the chopstick that moves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now use both. So if you see like this, play with this. If you see. Now the glitch here is these chopsticks, the edges shouldn't cross each other. पीछे से भी क्रॉस नहीं होना चाहिए और सामने से भी क्रॉस नहीं होना चाहिए. It will come with practice.
Yeah, practice is the key. Yeah. Right.
And then if you see, I have this food here, so I pick with the chopsticks like this.
Yes.
Simple.
Yes. Yep. Got it. We have to practice.
Yes.
Okay. How to call out to the waiter if you want something? What's the right way?
Excuse me. This can be at times when you know that there's no attention, but otherwise, excuse me. May I have a minute, please? I would say.
So just excuse me, or how do you call out to them?
How do you call out to them in the sense?
Excuse me, waiter. Is that what you say, or
No,
excuse
you
me,
never
captain?
call them
What?
as waiter.
Yeah,
If you
exactly.
see, even I, during this entire session, did not use the word waiter. I said wait staff.
Correct.
Yes. So usually in fine dines and stuff, they'll have their names. So you have to be cautious enough from the beginning, because obviously you'll be allotted this particular set of wait staff to your table. So you may want to take some effort and remember the names and call them out.
Or else, if you don't know the name, then
Excuse me, or just wave
That's-
your hands.
okay. Also, there's a comment by Dr. Shilpa. Remember, when you cut the meat, cut it along the fibers and not across them.
Yes, that helps, because things become easier if you cut them along the fibers. Of course, it becomes easier. I mean, though
Easier.
I'm a vegetarian, so I don't
Yeah.
worry.
And how to ask for the bill?
May I have the check, please? No bill, yeah. May I have the check, please?
Okay. What about tipping?
Okay.
In India, though not about Western, in India.
Even in India, in a lot of fine dine restaurants, tips are not really entertained. So I personally don't go by it, but if at all you have to, then maybe 10%, 5% to 10% should be good enough if you want
Okay.
to. Really.
Okay. So one more demand from you on a session on Indian and Maharashtrian food. Okay.
Oh yes, thank you. Sure, I would love to do that.
Okay. In buffet, how to fill our plate? Do we take all the items at the same time, or any rules of serving ourselves in a buffet dinner?
See, in buffet, usually, most of the time they're formal, or they're just to, fulfill the formalities. So what I personally do, or what I recommend, is never fill your plates just as if, you're not going to go back, because we usually tend to do that. Agar kaun yail puna ikde, who's going to go, right? So we try and fill everything. So don't do that. Keep things sorted. Maybe if you want to have salad and soups first, then take that, and, starters, finish it off. Leave that plate and then another plate. Or because nowadays it's plate systems, so you might not want to change the plate, but वही बोलते हैं ना कि उतना ही लो थाली में जितना आपको खाना हो, है ना? तो if you serve yourself only to a limited extent, then there's no chance that something remains in your plate. Obviously, when you finish off with your salad and starters, your plate is clean because you've eaten it well and you've finished it all. So you can refill the same plate and then refill it. Simple.
So no specific sequence of filling our plate.
See, in buffet, most of the times, even if there's, say 75 or 100 items in the buffet, you might not want to have a lot. And if at all it's a buffet, then, and if there's such huge menu, then they would have special counters, and for every counter, there'll be specific plates. So उस case में तो problem ही नहीं है. But again, only one thing to keep in mind, that you shouldn't overload your plate. And depends on what you want to have, because nobody is actually judging you. But yes, a lot of people do that कि पहले, they'll have salad and everything. But if you ask me personally, I would never have salad at a buffet, because I know it's not good or it's not healthy. So nobody knows ना कि आपने क्या खा के finish कर दिया और आप क्या sequence follow कर रहे हो.
Okay. So is that last question that we missed. If there is no one to serve, and while eating, we have to take ourselves a second serving of curry. How to pass the bowl and serve? Many times people passing bowls cross the plates of the guests. Is that okay?
You may request the person sitting next to you, could you please pass this to the other person? I think that's the way you could do it. Or even you can pass it to someone who's sitting opposite to you. You can give it directly. But if everyone is waiting for the second serving, then you need to necessarily pass it to your right, if everyone is waiting for the second service.
Okay. At the end of the meal, we have learned to keep the fork tips up, knife to its right and knife blade inwards. Is that so?
Yes, but that's how you eat. And so even when it is placed on your table, the blade of the knife is always inwards, because you hold it like this. If I show you, it will always be kept like this, because you pick it like this, na?
Correct.
And this is how it goes, because here you need to put your index finger on there. So similarly, once you're done eating, you will place it like this. Now you're not going to turn it and then keep it. So and it biologically happens that ways. Even if you make an effort, you'll find this easier.
Correct. In India, nearly 40% of wastage of food happens. Any suggestion to avoid that?
You know, change starts from you. So it just
We all
starts.
need to change. Yeah, I think that was the end of Q&A. It was indeed a wonderful and a very, very useful session, Snehal. Thank you so much. Over to you, Swati.
Thank you very much, ma'am. It was truly a very wonderful and informative session, all about the dining etiquette.